Hey docs, Kevin Christie here. And a couple weeks ago we had our mastermind down in Florida, and a lot of us did an Each One Teach One presentation on the Saturday morning where 5 or 6 of the members gave 20 to 30-minute presentations on different topics. And I actually did one on obvious atoms, and there's a book called Obvious Atoms. It actually is a kind of a reprint of an editorial from 1916, and it talks about the successful business person who got the nickname Obvious. His last name was Adams, because he always just found the obvious solutions to issues and attacked that. And I thought it was a great topic because a lot of times we look for all these complicated things or creative things, and sometimes there's just an obvious solution or messaging that we can get out there. And so I read some excerpts from that book talking about it, and then there was a Mad Men clip. If you ever saw Mad Men, there's a clip of Don Draper talking about how to advertise for cigarette smoking in an age where it was all being talked about how it caused cancer, and all he wanted to do was change the narrative. And so I showed that clip and everything, but essentially what the synopsis of this was that what are some of the obvious benefits that your patients have in seeing you, right? A lot of times we forget the fear they probably have in dealing with the healthcare system because, frankly, it's pretty terrible, right? Chiropractors do a much better job, not all, but a lot of chiropractors do a better job, but all these other healthcare providers out there are doing a terrible, terrible job. And so what are some of the things you can spotlight in your process of them being a patient in your practice that will solve some of those fears? And sometimes it's obvious things, right? Like, you're not going to wait in our waiting room. I talked about how we don't even call it a waiting room. We call it a reception area because there's no waiting, right? We're not going to wait for an hour. Or you're going to be able to get a new patient schedule appointment in 48 hours. There's not going to be any long treatment plan. There's, all these different things that might be concerning them. We can actually focus on them as positives. And so in this presentation I had, we outlined a handful of things, right? Maybe not everybody gets imaging. Like I mentioned, no long treatment plans, or know your cost before you come in. All the different benefits that are out there as chiropractors, and some of them will pertain to you and some will not. But I want you to start thinking about your process of them being a patient. Online scheduling, right? That's obvious. Not everybody's doing it, but it's a great way. Or two-way texting. So think about some of the benefits you have and start thinking about how you can run a campaign around that, how you could even shoot an Instagram video around that one topic. Hey, you know why we don't call our waiting room the waiting room? Because you're not going to wait long. You're going to come in, we're going to see you within 15 minutes. We call it a reception area, not a waiting room, right? So you can shoot these little videos around that and start thinking about how you can spotlight those things. You could send an email out to a patient. You could come up with like a tagline for your website even, like no long waits, get your appointment in 48 hours, and blah, 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 right? So there's all these little things you can do to try to let them know that it's going to be an easy process for them to enter into your practice and to exit out of your practice, because frankly, it's not easy anywhere else. It's a pain in the ass. Everybody knows it. And sometimes we need to just promote the obvious to them. And so that's my challenge to you. Start looking at some of those things that may be obvious to you, but need to be repeated consistently so they understand that it's easy for them to be a patient in your office.